Hey everybody, I've had the great privilege to talk to a retired US Air Force mechanic who worked at Lakenheath, a large NATO base in eastern England in the 1980s. And there he saw cryptid creatures and UFOs. This is not Rendlesham Forest. This is another NATO base. It raises the question that these multi-dimensional alien creatures are all over eastern England and have a particular interest in military bases. Barry was a senior Air Force mechanic working on airframes and power plants. He kept legacy aircraft in the air and then became a mission specialist for this, the F-111, a nuclear-capable advanced bomber. In the Cold War in the 1980s, F-111s were based at Upper Heyford and also at Lakenheath. I'm very honoured and privileged to talk to Barry and to share his interview with you. He's about to take us through his tour of duty at Lakenheath, starting with the day that he arrived.
I get dropped off, say, somewhere shortly after midnight. Yeah. And I was told what my room number was. And I believe, if I remember, I think my room number was number 211. Mm-hmm. So basically, there was no one else around at that time.
Right.
The base was, at that time, was being refurbished. And there's only a few people that lived in that barracks. I gathered my stuff up and went into barracks by myself, and went to room number, whatever it was, 211, I think, and I got my bags there and I'm just kind of in the hallway looking around, and I think I might have gone outside once or twice and got a cigarette or something, I noticed at the end of the hallway, there was some activity that caught my eye. And so I looked down the hallway, and there was a dark area. And I thought, geez, that's unusual. Like what's going on, though? Something with the lights, maybe, and then this entity, reptilian type entity, formed up sideways in the hallway. He wasn't facing me down the hallway. He was facing a wall. Okay. It formed up, turned towards me, and came at me at an incredible speed. Mm. Now, so you can imagine this. I mean, I'm just hanging out, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden I noticed some kind of light phenomena down at the end of the hallway. This entity forms up sideways, turns toward me, and comes at me at, an incredible speed. And as it got within, say, 15 feet of me, or say 15 to 20 feet of me, it slowed down to nothing, went into like this fractal state, almost like a Rubik's Cube.
Wow.
Disappeared, and then this little lady standing there, slightly ahead of where this entity was, and she's like, "Doo, coming towards me. Hello, lovey. I'm your mom," and I was petrified. First, I just came out of my mouth. I said, "You're not my mom," She said, "Yes, I'm mom." And I'm there, no, you're not my mom, because to me at that point, this entity turned into this little lady. So if you can imagine what can go through your head at this point.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? And then she says, no, I'm your mom while you're here. Okay. And I've got your key and everything,
she has the key.
Yeah. And she, so this is what happened.
He has kept this secret for over 40 years, but it's a very dark secret. Because not only did Barry get up close and personal with these strange phenomena that were well known to the US Air Force on his base, he sadly joins a number of US Air Force personnel who were drugged, threatened, and told never to tell what they saw on the US Air Force bases in Britain. Why Why does the Department of Defense want to keep this stuff so secret, unless they also know about it? Is it a threat to national security? Well, we don't know. You would think that it would be openly investigated by independent scientists. Contact with these strange creatures that you just heard, and multiple sightings of advanced flying craft are fascinating. But no. Barry was told to keep quiet. I have to very much thank Laurie Reifeld for introducing Barry to me. Barry has decided for the first time to share his story, and it's staggering. The level of description he brings to you, how these cryptoid creatures manifest as fractals and disappear back into their realm. He closely observed UAP flying craft, describing how they move and what they look like. In this fascinating interview, Barry reveals how it opened his mind to other possibilities. He had no idea creatures and UAP existed. This is nothing to do with Rendlesham Forest. He hadn't actually heard of the Rendlesham Forest incident at Bentwaters. No, this was years later at US Air Force NATO Lakenheath. I'm truly honored that Barry has chosen to reveal his story after 40 years here on this channel. Treat him with great respect. He deserves it. He's gone through a lot, and now retired, living back in the United States, the encounters in Eastern England still haunts him. What you're about to hear is the first time he has ever told these stories publicly. They are stunning in their detail. This, everybody, is an absolute honor. Today we have Barry and Laurie, both U.S. Air Force personnel who were both in Suffolk during the Cold War working for U.S. Air Force Europe, USAF, and NATO. We've heard Laurie's story. Laurie had encounters with very highly strange creatures in the Suffolk area. And in her last interview, she mentioned her colleague Barry. Hi, Barry. Nice to meet you. You're in Maryland today?
Yes.
Very good. So I'm going to dive into Barry's background and know what he did, and then we'll talk about his incredibly upsetting encounter. And I'll try and be good and not interrupt. Sorry, viewers, I know you're always saying I'm interrupting. It's just me. I get so excited. So, Barry, what did you do for the U.S. Air Force? And tell me about your technical background.
I'm an aircraft mechanic. I was at one point I was trained and qualified to service, launch, recover, service, and maintain about 35 different Department of Defense aircraft. The whole gamut of I worked in a section called Transient Alert.
Oh, yeah.
And we basically had to be qualified to take care of whatever came through our base. Multitude of various aircraft, such as VIP aircraft,
right?
NASA training missions, Top Gun exercises, red flag exercises, and normal training missions for all aircraft, all Department of Defense aircraft. So I was very, very fortunate. I got to play with airplanes that people will never be able to even touch, because back in the day, I was very fortunate that a lot of the older aircraft were still flying, you know, and so I got to talk to the pilots and work on and launch and recover. All the old Century series aircraft like the F-100, F-100, the 101, 102, 104, 105, 106, and all those are gone now. People will never have a chance to see those. And as a matter of fact, it was kind of a heartfelt situation because back in that day, a lot of those aircraft were being retired. And where I was stationed in New Mexico, a lot of those aircraft, their last stop was Canada Air Force Base on their last flight to be completely decommissioned out at Davis-Monthan. So it was a very heartfelt situation for a lot of these pilots because this is the last flight for a lot of these planes where they went to retirement.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. So I'm a private pilot, and my Cessna gets. So you're effectively an AI and an AP, but do you specialize also in electronics?
Well, my electronics, my dabbling in electronics was primarily when I was younger.
Okay.
When I got into aircraft, I basically dropped the electronics completely, and more airframe and power plant oriented.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, well, I specifically mentioned that because I've been. Oh, look at that! Yeah, I had an interview with Dan Isbell, who was an
right.
Yeah,
yep.
F-111 pilot at Upper Hayford. Amazing craft, complex system. Yeah.
You actually have to see it. Can you see that clearly?
Yeah. We know F-111s.
Yeah.
Aardvarks.
This is actually me.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And I don't even have my first stripe yet. And they got
Oh,
me out there launching an F-111.
what a great aircraft to work on. Complex system.
Yeah. I can tell you a little insight into the F-111.
Oh, yeah.
It was an engineering masterpiece, but it was a maintenance nightmare.
That's right.
Hey, I guarantee. Yeah.
That's what I heard. So let me take you back to the Cold War and NATO and Europe. So you obviously were based in New Mexico, but you got a posting to Europe.
Right.
When was that? Do you know roughly the year?
It would have been early '83.
Okay. Oh, right. Oh, that's very interesting, Laurie, isn't it? Yeah. Good. So, tell me about your posting. Where did you fly into, and where were you going to be sent? This is the story of Feltwell.
Basically, I had a beautiful flight over the Atlantic. I arrived at Heathrow.
All right.
And I should have arrived at Lakenheath early in the day. But my baggage was delayed. I had three carry-on or three pieces of luggage.
Yep.
And when I got at Heathrow, they had two of them, but the third one was missing. So somehow they lost it right there. And so that was delayed. So I had to hang around Heathrow for hours and hours. And finally they found it. And so I had missed the shuttle bus by that time. So they had to send a special car to pick me up.
Oh, great.
And at that time, they told me that I was going to go to, I was going to be residing at Feltwell base. And I would be put, temporarily or whatever, in the barracks there.
And
Um,
sorry, I am interrupting. I just want to get this because
that's fine.
I've been really looking into what happens at Feltwell, and it's quite surprising. It's quite an odd place. Were you just going to have accommodation at Feltwell, or were you actually going to be based at Feltwell to work?
Just accommodations for that for the time being. Yep.
I get it.
Yep.
So you were going to do maintenance at Lakenheath, or
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, I get it because Laurie introduced Feltwell. Laurie. Feltwell is north of Bentwaters and Woodbridge. It's it's north of Lakenheath actually, but it's still in East Anglia. But interestingly, when I looked into it, it's a very odd place. It has a single runway. It doesn't seem to be. It's a very old RAF base, but it's an ELINT communications center. That's why I was asking Barry about electronic. I assumed he was fixing radar systems, but no, you. Barry, would you confirm when you were there were domes and it was very much it was more of a communication base than an operational airfield?
Yeah, but it was all I would say whatever. I was not briefed into any of the there, but I can tell you it was very sublime. So it's not in other words, whatever operations were going on there was not huge,
Right.
with an enormous number of personnel and vehicles or anything like that. Whatever was going on there was very at a dull roar, you might say.
Yeah, good description. Yeah, if you look at it today and you look at the archive pictures, Laurie, it's a tiny little place.
Oh, it's
and
absolutely.
it's to this day it still has a reputation of being a really crap place to be billeted. The accommodation isn't very well regarded. I've just been digging into it, but it does do something quite interesting. It continues in a NATO role as a communication base, and I think there is a connection to Bentwaters. Did you know? Did you have people at Bentwaters who were living at Feltwell, or how did
not that I know of. And one reason is because we were very, very busy at Lakenheath.
Yeah.
A lot of long shifts, a lot of exercises. And, I did some exploring around Feltwell and around the base and stuff like that when I was there. But really wasn't much time. We were very busy keeping these F-111s flying.
And so you had shuttle transport out of Lakenheath over to Feltwell.
Right. There was a shuttle bus that ran a couple times a day. But, once I got established, I got my own car and stuff, So I commuted myself, back and forth to Lakenheath.
Right.
So Lakenheath, Feltwell rather was really pretty nifty for me anyway, from my perspective, because in the barrack there was still a lot of old graffiti on the wall. It went all the way back to World War II. You could look at people's names and the dates carved into the walls and in the closets, because the rooms had been repainted, but in the closet they left a lot of the graffiti in there in the closets and stuff.
Oh, in the closets. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I lived in that area, and Laurie, I'm sure you've seen that as well. In local pubs, there's a pub that I used to drink in where U.S. Air Force World War II pilots used to write their squadron name on the ceiling with a candle using soot. Bentwaters and Woodbridge, unbelievable history in World War II.
Oh, yeah. It was a beautiful place. The Airmen's Club, there was an old Airmen's Club there on Feltwell that was marvelous woodwork.
Yeah.
Elaborate. You wouldn't believe it. Real old wood, massive furnishings, incredible.
One of the things that especially when I first started talking to Barry, was that he started out his career as a stellar I mean, he made staff sergeant in a ridiculously short amount of time,
Good.
where most people made it in like 6-7 years. He made it in like 2 years or something like that.
Great.
And so he was the kind of airman that walked on water and was treated really well.
Barry, you flew into Heathrow, car up to Lakenheath, and accommodation was organised off base at an RAF and NATO base called Feltwell. And tell me what happened when you arrived at Feltwell in the accommodation block.
All right, so had a normal ride to Feltwell. Now, by now, it's pretty late at night. So I don't remember specifically, but I arrived somewhere, say around midnight at Feltwell. And, I was told by the driver what my room number was going to be. So basically, there was no one else around at that time.
Right.
The base was, at that time, was being refurbished, and there's only a few people that lived in that barracks. So I mean, there's only 3 or 4 people that lived in there, and so anyway, I get dropped off, say somewhere shortly after midnight. Yeah. And I was told what my room number was, and I believe, if I remember, I think my room number was number 211.
Oh, great! So
approximately halfway down the hallway, on the second floor.
Okay.
So I gathered my stuff up and went into barracks by myself, and went to room number, whatever it was, 211, I think, and I got my bags there, and I'm just kind of in the hallway looking around, and I think I might have gone outside once or twice and got a cigarette or something, but then, so, at some point I'm standing there in the hallway, and there's soft lighting. And I noticed at the end of the hallway, there was some activity that caught my eye. And so I looked down the hallway, and there was like a dark area. And I thought, geez, that's unusual. Like what's going on with something with the lights, maybe, and then, now this is going to get ridiculous. So, but I'm telling you what happened. Okay. This entity, reptilian type entity, formed up sideways in the hallway. He wasn't facing me down the hallway. He was facing a wall. Okay. It formed up, turned towards me, and came at me at an incredible speed. Now, so you can imagine this. I mean, I'm just hanging out, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden I noticed some kind of light phenomena down at the end of the hallway. This entity forms up sideways, turns toward me, and comes at me at, an incredible speed. And as it got within, say, 15 feet of me, or say 15 to 20 feet of me, it slowed down to nothing, went into like this fractal state, almost like a Rubik's Cube.
Wow.
Disappeared, and then this little lady standing there, slightly ahead of where this entity was, and she's like, "Doo, coming towards me. Hello, lovey. I'm your mom," and I was petrified. First, I just came out of my mouth. I said, "You're not my mom," She said, "Yes, I'm mom," and I'm there. No, you're not my mom, because to me at that point, this entity turned into this little lady. So if you can imagine what can go through your head at this point.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? And then she says, No, I'm your mom while you're here. Okay. And I've got your key and everything,
and she has the key.
Yeah. And she, so this is what happened. And that's exactly how it happened. That particular instance. This, like I said, this thing formed up, came at me at a high rate of speed, looking right at me. It must have weighed 450 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And the message that was put into me was, you frickin' humans with your damn nuclear weapons.
Oh, wow.
We could crush you. And that's, forgive me or whatever, but this is the message that I got, that these reptilian entities could crush us, like swatting a fly.
Mm.
And, all these years, I'm 67 now.
Right.
And I was in my early 20s then. All these years I've been trying to analyze this.
Right.
And the only thing that I've been able to deduce by watching other commentaries on this subject, is that I really believe that we share some kind of dimensionality with other factions, whether they're grays or whether they're reptilians or whatever type of entities they are. I think we share the environment somehow. We're somehow connected, but we can't really pierce the veil that we know of.
Staggering,
Yeah.
absolutely terrifying. And
Yeah.
the little old lady, the assistant in the barracks, she was human, obviously.
Oh, my goodness, she must have wondered what the hell was wrong with me.
Right. Oh, no. And Laurie, I mean, Barry's description of this entity being muscular and big, and that was similar to what you saw, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And often when I hear somebody else saying it, it really feels like, see, Laurie, you're not alone. And and I mean, it's strange, but it's comforting because we walk the same walk in different locations.
Something like this happens to you or whatever, you just don't know. You think it's all hocus pocus, but if it happens to you, then you definitively understand that there is more to the picture than we can normally see. That's the only thing I can tell you. And I'm not one to make something like this up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I'm not one that wants to. I don't want to be the dog-faced boy at the circus. Right up and get tickets for this idiot or whatever.
And Barry, I mean, it's not as if you brought it on. I mean, you didn't want to meet this creature. Oh, I mean, it was absolutely scary. I mean, wow, man.
Oh yeah, it just I mean, I'm kind of intrigued. I'm looking around. I was tired. It would have been a long day.
Yeah.
But, I'm checking stuff out and looking around. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm in England now, and this is great. England's got Jaguars and because I was a car guy, you know what I mean, and so I always wanted to check out Jaguars. So I'm right here in England. I'm going to get me a Jaguar someday.
Great.
And I mean, I wasn't thinking about any paranormal stuff.
No. And so did you feel obliged to keep quiet, or were you under a program where you had to report something like this? I know Laurie's talked about that personal responsibility of psychological reporting. What did you do?
Well, I kept it 100% to myself.
Right.
But there was other phenomena that went on over my tenure when I was there. Including orbs. And let me just say, I have to be careful with this because I just want people to be aware. The Air Force knew something was going on.
Obviously.
They knew that some phenomena was happening in the area because I was strictly, formally, and repeatedly debriefed when I left there to never discuss anything that I saw or did or whatever at Lakenheath. Okay, so they knew about this stuff.
And that advice wasn't talking about F-111s. It was talking about a phenomenon.
Right. So, I mean, you got to figure from my perspective, everything I was doing with the F-111s was absolutely top secret. Yeah. Human reliability programs, and, we have nuclear weapons, and, I mean, it was all top secret classified stuff that I was accustomed to being in that framework.
Right.
Even back to Cannon Air Force Base, you know what I mean? Sure. I had to have clearance back then to handle VIPs and the different types of aircrafts and systems coming through there. So, in a top secret situation was it was second nature.
But but when you left and came back to the US, maybe that's what happened. Did you get the impression that it wasn't the NATO Cold War aspect of your job that they wanted you not to talk about? What do you think specifically they were mentioning? They were implying what else you'd seen?
Exactly. They were not concerned about the aircraft.
Right.
Like I say, the F-111, by itself is a very complex, top secret situation. Utilize the PAVE TAC system, laser guidance, target, terrain following radar, and a multitude of systems that are highly classified. But when I got out of the Air Force eventually, they didn't give any specifics. They were just like, you cannot and will not ever talk about anything that you saw or did while you were at Lakenheath. Okay. Right. You know what I'm saying? And under the clause that, we can, you could disappear and no one would ever find your bones.
That reminds
you understand.
That reminds me of when the guys were debriefed at the security police guys, and one of the interrogators said, "Bullets are cheap."
Yeah, dime a dozen to Adrian. Yeah,
right.
I know that. Right. I mean, I've spoken to Adrian, and he is still traumatized by that. Like you both, incredibly loyal, followed orders, told the truth, and when asked, in Adrian's case at Rendlesham Forest incident, when he described exactly what he saw, he was told to change his story, and he refused or didn't want to, and was told, bullets a dime a dozen, which is a horrible, and it's to this day he felt very undermined after the loyalty and the trust.
Right. I ended up with mental health issues, which have a year to sort out. Because when something like this happens to someone, or when you're exposed inadvertently to something that you weren't supposed to see, maybe, or whatever. I've watched numerous programs where people are trying to discuss what we're talking about here and things like that. And it's the same thing. They take you aside. They will, they can drug you. They can brainwash you. They can drive you to the point of insanity where you won't remember who you are. Okay. And I'm not kidding. You know what I mean? I hate to say this. I hate for the public to have to think about something like this, but it's the truth.
It seems very unfortunate after, you both are, served your country, to protect a nation and protect an organization, NATO, to be treated in any disrespectful way seems like unbelievable to me as a civilian.
Well, what we have to realize, and I've done a tremendous amount of mental work on this, is, we're basically a little bit expendable. as personnel. If our purpose has been served and we're no longer fit the bill or whatever, we can become a liability.
Sure.
And that's just the nature of the game, the nature of the machine that we have. The machine real works of our security apparatus and military concepts and everything else. It's an unfortunate thing, but that's the way it is. If you cannot serve in your position, you know too much and you become a liability. And unfortunately, that's the name of the game, and that's the way it is. I hate to break the news to anybody that might be listening, but unfortunately, there's a lot more we need to consider. And people are completely unaware. You're a young person, you're growing up. Oh yeah, I'll military and everything's going to be great and blah, blah, blah. Well, I can tell you firsthand, there are aspects of things and tasks and career fields that you could be involved in that are extremely critical and well beyond the scope of public knowledge. We have programs concerning electronics and technologies and stuff like that that are literally decades ahead of what we see on the surface.
I don't know. The other sightings, I think obviously people want to know what you saw, Barry. Laurie saw luminous orbs and lots of other. What you can describe them in detail if you want, or first of all, where were they? Was it during your term in Suffolk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now here's another weird aspect is now that night after that encounter with that being, and I got my keys. She brought me my pillows and blankets and stuff. That little, so I did manage to get about an hour of sleep.
Wow.
I was due to be at Lakenheath. You see what I'm saying? So when I got up to catch the shuttle bus, I walk out of the barracks and I'm walking down towards the shuttle bus. And all of a sudden I realize there's an orb hanging there in midair. Yeah. About 200 feet. Yeah. And I thought to myself at first, well, that's the sun, because I really wasn't oriented yet or whatever. Then I said, wait a minute.
Hang on a minute. Yeah.
So I gears turned in my head, and being that I some electronics background or whatever, immediately thought to myself, okay, I know what that is. That's us. That's a device that we have. Right. So I clicked in my head, I'm going to ignore it. Yeah. And so I proceeded. I didn't look at it again. I went on the bus and just ignored it like I didn't see it. And then, so the bus waited a few minutes to see if there was any more passengers, and the orb was still there. And I was on the side of the bus where I could still see the orb there, but I wasn't really looking at it. I was kind of looking at it in my eye because I didn't want to acknowledge. I didn't want to acknowledge to the orb that I had seen it.
I get it.
Understand what I'm saying here? I get because it. Gears were turning into my head, and so fired up the bus, and so at that point I knew we were going to be going. So I looked at the orb, and it kind of shifted around slightly, and then poof, just vanished.
Oh wow! And what you've just described there in the way that of its acceleration characteristics, and then also, Barry, your graphical and very fascinating description of the creature that looked as if it was fractal. So, both was there was it kind of similar? I mean, what I'm talking about, did it kind of move in a way which isn't normal physics that you would see on Earth with gravity?
Yeah, I've seen the orbs behave The only thing that I could describe it for a lay person might be like if you ever watch a hummingbird.
Yeah.
A hummingbird can show up, do its thing around a flower tree or whatever, and then zip off and then come, out of sight and then come like right back and
yeah. Right.
So the way orbs that I've seen, well, I've seen different kinds, but I mean, these type of orbs that were around Feltwell, between Feltwell and Lakenheath, I've seen them on the way back and forth. Is that the way they behave? Very much like a hummingbird. They can show up, they might bobble around a little bit, and then whoop, zip off at impossible speed. Firmly believe that testing was going on live personnel under actual circumstances without of our commanding officers. You understand what I'm saying? There may have been what was going on, but from what I can tell, even our even our leadership was not fully aware of what was being done. And that's the only reasonable conclusion that I can come to after all these years is that it's an onion. And look at the way we're structured, our military and our security apparatus machine, it's all compartmentalized. Yeah. And depending on how it's prioritized, you know what I mean? This group may have the authority to conduct something on this other group. It's what to think that, but that's the way it is.
I also think that the chain of command was they didn't want to report it because of the whole thing of it's a UFO, and then when I mean it got to the point where there was a lot of radio activity going on during the RFI, and from what I've read, and then but when you start looking at the other radio channels, like the Wing Commander's channel, and Major Ziegler's channel, it was dead quiet. So in a way, it was sort of like we're going to try and minimize this, contain it, and so all these guys were left to hang out to dry, and then there was this infighting going on. I mean, and between each other because they were seeing and experiencing different things, and they're like, "No, that's not what you saw," And the thing is that these beings or entities are able to project different circumstances and situations and stories in your mind that this is what you see. And so I mean, Jim Peniston saw the craft, I believe, and he touched it, the whole thing, and then all of a sudden downloaded ones and zeros, and then John Burroughs' situation was completely different, and so it's very, very complicated. And then on top of it, you got the squadron commander Ziegler saying, rightfully so, we all have to maintain communication security. That was the big thing. You can't say, and I mean, it was drilled into us every day. We called it ComSec, and it's like, oh, you can't say certain things over the phone, or just even little bits, because we know that the Russians are out there and they can piece it all together and whatnot. So they leaned it in that direction, that it was the Russians. But when it came to any of these psychological these beings and UFO, the grays and all these the orbs,
just like Lori said, where this phenomena, whatever it is, can put people against each other. Normally work together as a team, all of a sudden can be broken up with conflicted ideas and viewpoints. This truly is the nature of the phenomena. It can I don't know, it can change your perspective, put people against each other. It can cause emotional reactions where they normally wouldn't be present. You know what I mean? It could cause agitation, depression on people who are normally stable. You know?
Oh, I think that's absolutely fascinating. And Barry, I'm trying to desperately work out what was going on. Did you get any impression, and you can maybe just not say if you don't want to, was there other agencies, not U.S. Air Force, that you were kind of aware of, or?
Yeah. There was more to the picture than you would think. The security apparatus that was in charge of debriefing me and everything had nothing to do with the normal base security or OSI locally or anything like that. It was a completely different entity.
So there was non-US Air Force other agencies in the area operating, or even on the base.
Well, let me just add this. I don't know if I should or not, but I'm going to do it.
Go ahead.
One of my requirements when I was out processing from Lakenheath to come back stateside, one of the appointments. So when you're out processing, you have a 2 or 3 page list of appointments that you have to make to transact and turn in your equipment. You have to go over, check this, check with these people, and they initial it or sign it and check that box. So you have a out processing check sheet, right? Mm-hmm. So a couple of times when I was out processing, one time specifically, I went to a place in the hospital, and I was directed to go to a room, or it had some room or whatever. So I went into the room, and in that room, there was a door into another room. So I was directed into this door into the other room. In there, I was basically threatened, drugged, interrogated, possibly brainwashed. In very, very nasty circumstances. And what happened in that room was, I can just tell you what happened. When I first went in there, there was the typical thing that you might see in a movie, where there's a table, there's a chair for you, and someone sitting in a chair on the other side of the table,
right,
with a light hanging low over the table. Now, I don't know how they orchestrated this, but there was nothing on the table. Then the guy starts talking to me and whatever, and asking me questions, and then somehow, and this is completely bizarre, somehow 2 little paper cups showed up on the table.
Ooh.
It's just completely ludicrous. They just were, I was talking and looking around, and all of a sudden I noticed 2 paper cups there. And I'm like, didn't think too much of it at the time. Maybe I just didn't notice them or something, when I first got there, or whatever. And the guy was talking to me, and I remember him saying, okay, now you see those 2 cups, right? He said, now there's a little liquid in those cups, okay? And what we're going to do here, okay, is you're gonna answer me when I ask you a question, and you're gonna tell me exactly what I want to hear, kind of thing, and if you don't, you're gonna drink that first cup.
Wow.
Okay. And if you don't tell me then what I want to hear from you, you're gonna drink the second cup.
Wow.
Okay. And if you still don't tell me what I want to hear from you, the man standing behind you is going to stick this fucking syringe right in your neck.
Wow.
And you will tell us what you want to hear. Okay? And I looked behind me, and there was no one in the fucking room when I went in there. Now there's 3 people standing behind me.
No.
2 goons and 1 guy with a syringe.
Oh no.
Now, after that, I don't know what transpired because I was under some kind of influence of something. Somehow they got something into me, whether it was in a gaseous form or whatever. I don't, you know, or I might have even drank the stuff that was in the little cups. I can't even tell you now. But I can tell you is a day later, this all started to come back to me.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. I'm not going to put up with this shit.
No.
I'm going to go back there and find out what the hell that was and who was involved in that and get names, numbers, times, dates, everything. And I'm going to write it down, and blah, blah, blah. Well, so I went there the next day into that room, into the first room
Right.
where the second doorway should have been. And there's no doorway.
Say that again.
No doorway. Never was
no
a doorway.
Oh no. Right.
Yeah. So I don't know how they did that. So if you can tell me how they did that, then I will be,
Sure.
like I said, I went back there to get names and numbers because I was really pissed.
I would be pissed. Why do you think that they? I mean, you were just signing out. You were going to a next assignment. Why do you think? And what did they want you to tell them? I mean, or why would they?
They started intentionally trying to drive me crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And another part of the out processing, I had to go to the dentist. Okay. I went to the dentist. They strapped me into a dental chair, that reclines and everything and whatever, The tech sergeant that was there, big black tech sergeant, muscular, seemed to be in charge or whatever of the dentist office or whatever, he dismissed everybody and locked the door. Okay. They had me strapped into this dentist chair, my head back,
Right.
device in my mouth to hold my mouth open, and they put in implants into my teeth.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Right.
People need to know this stuff somehow. It's heaven and hell. It's a double-edged sword. What we do with our military and everything, and the reasons why things are done certain ways, we don't know all of it, but a lot of it is psychological warfare. And whatever that entails, so they can do it to us as well as they can do it to our adversaries, if it's deemed necessary, and you really don't understand unless you've been there. And it's like I told Lori the other day, unless you've been in that chair or those 2 chairs, the one with the interrogator or the dentist, the implants put in, unless an individual had actually been there, then as far as you're concerned, this is hocus pocus, woo bullshit, but there's someone that's been there, a completely different story, I'm the one that wanted to get out. I basically, after all this crap, I told him to go to hell.
Okay, right.
Yes.
I would.
I was hurt, devastated and angry all at once, and things were happening and transpiring so fast that the whole thing just snowballed. And I decided the best thing for me to do is just tell them to screw off.
Bro.
And I'm not the type of person that would tell them. I'm not that type of person that would tell them to screw off. But that's the road that I ended up on. I got to that point where I realized I want to get away from this as far as possible. You know what I mean? I want to get the hell out of the military and forget that I was ever in the military. And that's what I did. I'm not Mr. Perfect or anything, but I'm not one to make up a bunch of stories just for the sake of having the spotlight or anything like that. You know what I mean?
No. Let's make that very clear. People watching this, I spoke. This is a lot of work and a lot of reassurance. I spoke to Laurie about this in great detail. We've known each other maybe about a year now, Laurie, and I've respected your work, your books, and your appearances on other things. And then Laurie very kindly introduced me to Barry. And so thank you, Barry, for this. It's very good.
You're very welcome.
I just would like to say one thing is that when Barry first got in contact with me, I just felt as if, there was somebody else out there who went through very similar things, and unfortunately, it got to the point where he couldn't take. He had to get out. It's just like those guys, those 100 and so many. I mean, we had the worst turnover at the 81st Security Police. And I mean, even me, I was counting my days down. What we experienced, what Barry experienced, is downright trauma. And it just didn't have to be that way. And you felt like in some cases you were in another dimension, or you were in a rabbit hole with Alice in Wonderland, and you're thinking, why is this happening? I mean, I got to a point where I would look at the base and say, it looks like a sleepy little base.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be.
That's right.
The stress level was through the roof, and
comes up in the atmosphere.
And I couldn't. It got to a point where I knew that I was better than this, but just like Barry, and it's really important for people to know, is that this stays with you forever. And I mean, I wanted to, when I finally left and I PCS'd, and I did go on to another base and kind of checked out the next base, Lowry, and I said, it's okay. And the same thing. Then I went to Nellis Air Force Base. It's okay. And, for the rest of my career on active duty, you
were assessing the psychological, how you felt at other postings, right?
Yes.
After Suffolk.
Yeah. But Suffolk always came back to me. It was like I couldn't run. You can't run away from it. You can't run away from you. It's almost like you're somehow attached to that assignment.
I'm absolutely staggered. I mean, I'm British. I mean, there's good pubs. It's a nice area. It's great. Do you both think that it was unique to the era, the Cold War paranoia? Was it U.S. Air Force Europe, USAF? Was it Suffolk? Was it Britain? Or was it the phenomenon? I mean, what do you think, or another agency? If you had to say, why was that place so weird? Barry, why do you think the whole area was weird?
Onion.
All right, good answer.
Onion. There's a lot going on. You got British aerospace, you got United States, you got NATO, you got USAF, United States Air Forces in Europe. You have intelligence agencies, you have electronics warfares, you have radars running everywhere. Radar all over the place. And like you said, with the Cobra Mist thing, how much activity that was causing, what kind of portals that was opening, and it's all there. And that's why I keep saying onion, because that's really what we're talking about here. You can't put your finger on any specific thing, really, because it's layered, and then on the other side of the onion, and then you have to go through another layer, and then go through another layer of the onion over here. You know what I mean? The way it is. It's completely ludicrous, when you try to decipher this stuff. It's nuts,
Laurie, what would you onion?
Very, very similar. Yeah, I think it had a lot to do with the layer upon layer upon layer of all the EMF and all the experiments that they were doing over there. That was part of in the atmosphere at the bases. I mean, it was so close to so many, even the natural electric, whatever you want to call it, EMF or the Lee lines or whatever. I mean, it had a natural energy to it, and then to add all these other layers upon layers, and it doesn't go away. It just aggravates the entire area, and I do believe that they left something there that it did open up a dimension or something. And there is movement going in and out.
There is.
And it still seems that I'm interrupting. I'm being really rude. It's still there today, and I completely agree. I mean, somebody really messed it up. Look at the how many military physics, really advanced physics, stuff working with quantum multi-universe stuff all went on in Britain, in that part of Britain, with high-powered microwaves became the directed energy weapons, the lasers, the plasma generation, Orford Ness, AWRE, and then Sizewell. I mean, and Martlesham. Unbelievable.
All at once.
All at once, right.
Yeah. I ran into a 3-star general at a retirement ceremony, and I was a captain at the time, and I decided, what the heck, throw caution to the wind. And he noticed that some of my ribbons, now I'm in the Army Reserves, and he noticed that some of my ribbons mixed in were Air Force. And he goes, "Oh, you were in the Air Force?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And then I said, "I was stationed at Bentwaters." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And this was before they even shut down Bentwaters. And he said to me, I said, "Yeah, in fact, I was one of the airmen who saw the UFO and had different experiences." And all of a sudden, I saw it in his eyes. He just completely shut down and went into that whole mode of, well, if I tell you anymore, I'd have to shoot you. And I said to him, "Go ahead, you can shoot me.
Shoot me now."
and then ironically, there was this other electrical engineer who was listening, and he went up to me, and I'm feeling really stupid, like, oh man, I just can't believe I said that to a 3-star general, even though my life was completely different than the life as an airman over at Bentwaters.
Yeah.
But he came up to me and said, they found something there, something that we're using, some material that can take high degree of heat and all this other stuff, and it's very lightweight. And I'm thinking, now I feel like I'm on the X-Files.
You are.
And, and I just, it's funny though, it's like I've kept these pieces together, and, I knew when I left Bentwaters, I said, there's a story here. And then it was as if, it's as if the atmosphere of life said, no, you're not going to tell the story yet. You're not going to tell it. It took me until I was 64, 65 to really write the story. And now I'm writing a second book about the science behind it. So I've been working on the physics and all that.
There's somebody who doesn't want to discuss it at a level where they know what was going on.
Right. That, I think, if you don't mind. I think, and Lori thinks too, I believe, that I think this program, some of it's probably natural phenomenon, but the program we were running, I think they got out of control.
Recently, we've had at Milton Hall and Lakenheath these drone phenomenon.
Right.
And we don't really know what they are. they're possibly bad actors pushing at the boundary of current military. But the thing that I've been hearing is how badly the response has been by base security. I don't know what you think about this drone incursion, Laurie, that they don't have the systems to deal with it. You can't chase a drone with an airplane. You need EMP denial stuff and a net. And it feels like always the military is fighting yesterday's war.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to share, because
sure,
like Barry, I'm 66 going on 67. I know 67's got, some people like to talk about 67, but the one thing is that experiences of the particular time frame are no longer young, obviously.
Right.
And the thing that's key to me is that we still continue to need to talk about it and to share what we know. And maybe I'm just talking about myself, but I think there are others that are like that. And people just tend to, I still hear from people saying, how come I never heard about your case? And it's or
right.
my story.
Right.
And I just want to say, I just want to say, like places like Contact in the Desert and other places like that. I mean, they'll invite you if they invite you, but I personally would like people to listen to our story before we're gone.
Okay, sorry, Barry, I know you want to say something. I just want to mirror that. I get this from YouTube. A lot of my audience are younger, and they're going, there you are, talking about that Rendlesham thing again. It's so boring. And I'm going, it's not boring, because we haven't solved it. We need to understand the physics. We need to understand the agencies, and we need to understand the personal side of the experiencers. I haven't, it's not solved yet. We need to get to the bottom of it.
No, I kept this under my hat for 45 years.
Right.
I only talked to Laurie, started talking to her a few months ago. And the only reason that was because of your program. Right. I started you on YouTube.
Thank you.
You had Laurie on, and you were talking about the Rendlesham thing, which I had no idea about. I didn't know about the Rendlesham incident until just a couple of years ago.
Oh, right.
But
but but the things that you experience mirrors what people saw in the Bentwaters Woodbridge area. Oh, wow. Wow.
Absolutely.
So I never discussed any of this with anybody until just this last year with you guys, so that's 45 years.
Thank you.
I kept my security oath. Okay. 45 years theoretically should be long enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, thank you, Barry and Laurie. What you have discussed today is amazing, and it moves the whole field of UAP forward. But it also raises a deeper, darker question of why the military are trying desperately to keep it secret. So, viewers, I really value your input now. Were you based at Lakenheath? Did you share these sightings? What you've just seen is freedom of information, and why YouTube has traditionally been a platform for people like me and Barry and Laurie to actually share things publicly, maybe that their government don't like, maybe that other people didn't want to make public, and certainly not what mainstream media do. So please like and subscribe for more of this, because undoubtedly there's other witnesses out there. We are not going to get government disclosure. They want to keep it all quiet. It's up to you to reveal the real truth.